The chill of the night clung to the air as I parked my car in the dimly lit alley. The flickering street lamp overhead cast eerie shadows that danced across the brick walls, setting the stage for the clandestine meeting I was about to embark upon. The Craigslist ad had promised an antique mirror, a relic with a haunted history that intrigued me despite my skepticism. The seller, only identified as Silas, insisted on a nocturnal exchange. I took a deep breath, the crisp night air filling my lungs as I approached the designated spot. The echo of my footsteps reverberated through the desolate alley, amplifying the solitude that clung to the surroundings. Silas had described himself as a tall figure draped in a tattered cloak, his face concealed by shadows. I hesitated for a moment, considering the potential absurdity of the situation, but curiosity prevailed, urging me forward. As I turned the corner, I saw a silhouette waiting beneath the flickering street lamp. The cloak draped over the figure billowed in the wind, concealing the face as promised. "You here for the mirror?" a voice called out, low and gravelly. I nodded, the knot in my stomach tightening as I handed over the agreed-upon sum of money. Silas reached into the folds of his cloak, producing an ornate, antique mirror. Its wooden frame was adorned with grotesque carvings of twisted faces and demonic figures. The glass, tarnished with age, seemed to hold secrets within its murky depths. Despite my reservations, a sense of excitement coursed through me. Silas insisted I not gaze into it until I was alone, and with that, he vanished into the shadows. As I drove home with the mirror securely fastened in the back seat, a shiver ran down my spine. The rearview mirror reflected my own uneasy expression as I navigated the deserted streets. Arriving home, I carried the Antica into my dimly lit apartment, placing it in the center of the room. The air seemed to grow colder, the atmosphere thick with an otherworldly presence. Unable to resist the allure of the mysterious mirror, I locked eyes with my own reflection. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary, but as I stared deeper, a subtle distortion rippled across the glass. The room behind me shifted, warping into a nightmarish landscape of twisted trees and shadowy figures. My heart raced as a chilling voice whispered through the air, emanating from the mirror itself. "You've awakened something that should have remained dormant," it hissed, the words sending a wave of dread through my being. Panic set in as the room darkened, the distorted reality of the mirror bleeding into my surroundings. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat. Desperation clawed at me as I tried to look away, but an unseen force held my gaze captive. The grotesque carvings on the frame seemed to writhe and contort, taking on a life of their own. The figures in the mirror beckoned, their twisted forms reaching out as if eager to escape into the real world. Terrified, I closed my eyes, pleading for release from the nightmarish tableau. When I opened them again, the mirror stood innocently in its place. The room returned to normal. Trembling, I vowed never to underestimate the power of the supernatural. The Craigslist ad had indeed led to a haunting encounter, and the antique mirror now stood as a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked in the shadows. The moon hung like a spectral lantern in the midnight sky as I parked my car near the abandoned warehouse. I was there to meet a man named Victor, the supposed seller of an antique typewriter I'd spotted on Craigslist. The ad promised a rare find, a relic from a forgotten era, and Victor insisted on a clandestine meeting under the cloak of darkness. Nervous anticipation knotted my stomach as I stepped out into the desolate parking lot. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, broken only by the distant hum of a flickering street lamp. The rusty door of the warehouse creaked open, revealing a silhouette in the shadows. "Are you the one looking for the typewriter?" A raspy voice called out from the darkness. I hesitated for a moment, my instincts sending warning signals that I tried to dismiss. Victor stepped into the feeble light, his features obscured by a wide-brimmed hat casting a shadow over his face. He handed me the antique typewriter, its keys stained with the patina of time. As I examined the intricate details, Victor's eyes remained hidden beneath the brim of his hat. Unease settled in, but the allure of the vintage piece overshadowed my growing apprehension. With a brief exchange of cash, Victor's gaze pierced through the shadows, his voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. "This typewriter," he began, "it has a history. It belonged to a writer who met an untimely end. Some say it still carries the echoes of his final words." Dismissive of the superstitious tales, I chuckled nervously, attributing the ominous aura to the setting. Victor vanished into the warehouse's shadows, leaving me alone with the eerie artifact. I decided to test the typewriter's keys, each stroke echoing through the empty space. The room grew colder, the air thickening with an unsettling energy. As I typed a simple greeting, the response materialized on the yellowed paper without any effort on my part. "He watches from the ink, yearning for release," the words read, sending a chill down my spine. A sense of dread enveloped me as the typewriter seemed to type on its own, revealing a ghastly narrative of a writer's descent into madness. The words painted a vivid picture of a malevolent presence lingering within the typewriter, hungering for a new vessel. Panic set in as the warehouse's shadows began to contort and writhe, taking on sinister shapes. Whispers echoed through the air, chilling me to the bone. I tried to flee, but an invisible force held me captive, the typewriter's keys clacking relentlessly. Victor's voice resurfaced, now distorted and otherworldly. "You've awakened the spirit within. It craves a new storyteller," he intoned, his figure materializing in the darkness, the wide-brimmed hat revealing hollow eyes. Desperation fueled my attempts to escape the supernatural grip, but the typewriter's haunting narrative continued, foretelling my inevitable descent into madness. As the last words etched onto the paper, the warehouse plunged into darkness. When the light returned, the typewriter sat innocently before me, Victor's silhouette evaporating into the shadows. Trembling, I realized the chilling truth. The typewriter now held my story, the ink infused with a malevolent force eager to continue its unholy tale. I stumbled out of the warehouse, haunted by the echoes of a writer's demise and the ominous typewriter that had become an unwilling accomplice in my own descent into a nightmarish narrative. The Craigslist ad had led me into a realm where reality and horror converged, leaving me to grapple with the consequences of a fateful meeting gone horribly wrong. The dim glow of the street lamp cast long, unsettling shadows as I approached the deserted park for the exchange. The Craigslist ad promised an item of unparalleled curiosity, an ancient, weathered book rumored to hold secrets beyond imagination. The seller, known only as Elijah, insisted on a nocturnal rendezvous in the heart of the park. A chill crept down my spine as I navigated the empty pathways, the rustling leaves and distant hoots of an owl amplifying the silence. Under the flickering street lamp, I spotted a figure clad in a hooded cloak, face obscured. Elijah. He handed me the ancient tome, its leather-bound cover exuding an otherworldly energy. The air thickened with a palpable tension as our eyes met briefly. Elijah's voice, a low whisper, urged caution. "This book," he intoned, "is a conduit to the unknown, but beware, for it demands a toll." Curiosity mingled with apprehension as I retreated to the solitude of my apartment, the antique book clutched tightly in my hands. The pages, yellowed with age, bore inscriptions in a language unknown to me. I felt an inexplicable compulsion to decipher its secrets. As the night wore on, the apartment plunged into an unnatural darkness. The only illumination emanated from the arcane symbols on the book's pages, casting an ethereal glow. Transfixed, I began to read aloud, the ancient words escaping my lips like an incantation. A sinister force awoke within the apartment, a presence unseen but deeply felt. The air grew heavy as shadows twisted and contorted, forming grotesque shapes. Panic set in, but the compulsion to read persisted, each word binding me tighter to the book's unholy contract. A sudden gust extinguished the feeble candlelight, plunging the room into absolute darkness. Whispers enveloped me, echoing in a language both ancient and malevolent. I fumbled for the light switch, but an invisible force thwarted my attempts. The room pulsated with an otherworldly energy, and a spectral figure materialized before me. Elijah's hooded silhouette stood, his face now a skeletal visage. "You've unleashed forces beyond your comprehension," he intoned, his voice echoing from the abyss. "The toll must be paid." The walls seemed to close in as the room transformed into a nightmarish realm. The book, now a conduit for the supernatural, bound me in a spectral embrace. Desperation surged as I realized the true cost of delving into the unknown. In the end, the apartment returned to an eerie stillness, the ancient book lying innocently on the floor. Elijah's ominous presence dissipated into the shadows. I was left alone, haunted by the consequences of a Craigslist ad that led me to a realm where curiosity exacted a price beyond imagination. An unsettling tale etched in the arcane language of a malevolent book. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to smash that like button and subscribe for more scary horror stories. See you on the flip side.